Alright, today in this video I will be talking about Muzen Cab, the Mayan god of bees. Not the bees. Alright, moving into base statistics here. Ah-Muzen-Cab is a physical god. He is a hunter. Hunters are ranged characters. They scale very well off basic attacks. That's kind of their whole shtick. So now, going into his base statistics here, he starts with 450 health, gets 73 per level, 230 mana plus 40 per level. Attacks attack speed, which is very relevant for physical gods, not so much as magical gods. So he gets 0.95 attacks per second plus 0.016 attacks per second per level. And then moving into protections, 30 magical protections plus 0.9 per level, 12 physical plus 3 per level. So he goes up to 72 at level 20 in physical protections. A lot less for magical, about 48. And then basic attack scaling. This is very important for hunters. He gets 38 to start, plus 2.2 per level, plus 100% of physical power. This is standard for physical gods. They'll get 100% of their physical power with their basic attacks. So now his abilities. And I don't know if you saw this coming, but his passive is actually called Bees. So, Bees. Three of Muzen Cab's abilities will inflict bees upon the enemy. Enemies afflicted by bees will take damage every half a second for 3 seconds, so 6 ticks, and are revealed on the minimap while they're afflicted. And bees are also funny because they will spread to nearby enemies. A god will spread them to minions and other gods. Minions will only spread to minions. So now, its damage per tick, it does 8 damage per tick, plus 5% of his physical power. And these are spread through his abilities. I'll go into that. So now his first ability is called Hive. Muzen Cab will summon a hive at his target location, and this hive gives 2 buffs to Muzen Cab. He will give him a movement and attack speed buff, in addition to heal him a small amount while he's in the hive's locations. Hives can only be destroyed by enemy basic attacks, and Muzen Cab can deploy 6 hives at any time. Now, he only deploys 1, but he can have 6 hives active at any given time. So now, its healing, it does plus 4 health every second, up to 12, so scaling up by 2 every level. It gives 10% attack speed up to 50%. This is a lot. Going up by 10 every level. Movement speed starts at 10%, going up to 30%, plus 5 per level. So these hives are really central to Muzen Cab. These are what allow him to be dangerous. And a Muzen Cab without his hives, not that scary. Muzen Cab with hives, kill the hive, then kill the bee. So now cooldown, 16-second cooldown, and then its mana cost 40 up to 60 every time you want to place a hive. So pretty mana cost effective given how much it's giving you. So now his second ability is called Swarm. A Muzen Cab straight line will throw out a giant swarm of bees. It'll deal damage to every enemy hit and will apply the passive to them. So its damage starts at 60 damage, goes up to 280, goes up by 55 damage per level, and gets 80% of his physical power as extra damage. So like I said, straight line damage, cooldown starts at 16 seconds, goes to 12. And then its mana cost 65 to 85. Now, this is a Muzen Cab's bread and butter ability. It's his lane clear, it's his nuke, it's his damage. It's his way of giving bees to everyone. Pretty simple. Now moving into honey. This is a more complex ability because of its interactions with the rest of Ah-Muzen-Cab stuff. Sorry for that. Honey. Ah-Muzen-Cab will spray honey at a given location. He can then drag his target across the ground, spreading honey to wherever, up to a little bit of an area. Honey will slow every enemy that's within it. Now, this has an interaction with his hives, because when honey is placed with a certain radius for hives, and you'll be given this on your HUD when you activate the ability, you'll see where your hive rated range is. Bees will swarm the honey, and it will do damage to every enemy within, 8 damage to 60, going up to by 13 per level, plus 15% of its physical power. It'll slow by 5% to 25%. Enemies that hit the honey with the bees on them will will be inflicted by bees, the passive, and they'll take damage every half a second while they're in the honey. The bees will apply as they leave. The damage will continue while they stand in it. Honey's alive for about 4 seconds, so you can take a lot of damage if you stand in it, but you can get out of it pretty easily. So cooldown, 10 seconds, cost 75 to 95. Also, just note, Swarm will also put bees on the honey if it goes over while the honey's on the ground. And now, Ah-Muzen-Cab's ultimate, Stinger. So, Ah-Muzen-Cab, very simple, will throw a stinger in a line in front of him. It will penetrate every enemy until it hits a god. As soon as it hits a god, it will stick in the god. It will also apply bees to them, which does a massive amount of damage. It will also cripple them, meaning they can't use escape abilities like jumps or dashes. They can still use movement steroids. So now, after 3 seconds, the stinger will fall off the enemy and land on the ground. Or if they die, the stinger will do the same thing. Ah-Muzen-Cab then has 4 seconds to pick the stinger back up. If he picks the stinger up, he will reduce the cooldown of stinger by 80%. So this is a 90-second cooldown normally. 80% is a massive reduction. It will drop it from 90 seconds to 18. It's pretty big. So now damage 275 to 595, plus 110% of his physical power. It goes up by 60 damage, or no, sorry, 80 damage every level. Mana cost 100. So now, the previous video I talked about Agni. Agni has a very unique ultimate. These are usually the two standards you see with ultimates: 100 mana, 90-second cooldown. So now, the item build with Ah-Muzen-Cab. He starts with this starter item called Bluestone Pendant. What Bluestone Pendant gives him is a little bit of damage, and a passive that will give him back his missing mana. Every 5 seconds, it will return 3% of his missing mana to him, to a physical god. Very common hunter starter item. Then he also starts with his item called Spiked Gauntlet. And what Spiked Gauntlet does, it gives physical lifesteal. And physical lifesteal, unlike magical lifesteal, will only work on basic attacks. Magical lifesteal works on both basic attacks and abilities, but this only works with basic attacks. Ah-Muzen-Cab, you will then build this item into Devourer's Gauntlet. Devourer's Gauntlet is a stacking item, and for each stack, you gain a little bit of physical power and a little bit of lifesteal, up to 60 stacks. So in total, this item will give you about 60 physical power, 75 physical power, and 25% physical lifesteal. It's very standard, very good item. His next item that you want to build into is called Ninja Tabi. It'll give attack speed, 20 physical power, and movement speed. Like I said, movement is very important in this game. So this allows Ah-Muzen-Cab to attack a little bit faster, and since his hives give such an obscene amount of attack speed and movement speed, This just makes him really hard to fight when he's in his hive locations. So now, after his ninja tab eye, there you have a few options. You can either go into an item called Ichabel, which gives 30% attack speed, 10 physical penetration, and a passive, which the passive goes, every time you hit a base attack, you will steal 10 physical power from an enemy. So they'll lose it, you'll gain 10. And it's sort of a very good boxing item, so you'll be able to fight well against other physical gods. Or you can go this item called Executioner. This is better for tanky targets, because Executioner will give you physical power, attack speed, and its passive is every time you hit an enemy with a basic attack, it will reduce their physical protections. Sorry. So very good item. Depends on what you're facing. If you're facing a lot of squishier, Ichabel's really good. Executioner is better for tankiness. So now, more damage. This item, the Rage Blade, gives physical power and crit chance. 30%. As well as a passive that goes, every time you hit a basic attack, but you don't crit, you'll gain more crit chance. This steps up to 5 times, and it's each like 5%. So if you don't crit, you'll be more dangerous the more you're not critting, because you'll have a much higher chance of critting. And crits in this game will double the damage of your basic attack. So then you think, okay, that's pretty good. I'm not done. Deathbringer. This is a big staple on any physical god that wants to crit. Deathbringer will give 50 physical power. And if you remember from earlier, that's also 50 basic attack damage, 20% crit chance, and its passive will increase crit extra damage by a further 50%. So now your crits will hit for 250% instead of just, or 150% damage rather than an extra 100%. So instead of doubling the damage, you multiply damage by 2.5. It's a lot. Then, 6th item, you'll be selling your Bluestone. You no longer need it at late stages in the game because you're less focused on mana. And you can either go Titan's Bane, which will increase your penetration, do a lot more to tanky targets. You can go for more lifesteal with Aussie or Bloodforge or something else. You can get an Ichabel and an Executioner for a lot of attack speed. A Muzen Cab doesn't really need it because he already has such a high amount of attack speed from hives. Or you can go for Malice, the 3rd crit chance item. It'll give more. It'll give 50 physical or 20% crit chance, much like Deathbringer. But its passive will, every time if you crit an enemy, you'll deal extra tick damage to them, which is equal to a certain amount of your, which is equal to a percentage of your physical power. It's not, the passive's not great, but the 50 damage is really good. So now actives, every hunter wants to build these 2 actives right here. Purification beads, which will immune you from CC and reduce your cooldowns. The cooldowns are less important, but the CC immunity is great. And then sprint. What sprint will do is you raise your movement speed for 6 seconds, as well as removing the movement speed penalty for attacking. In this game, if you use a basic attack, you will slow yourself, and you'll move slower for about a second after attacking. With sprint active, you will no longer suffer that penalty, and you'll be immune to slows. Very, very good. Alright, skins. These are always fun. Standard skin, Golden Diamond Legendary, Sting is recolor, and then the Dark Whisperer, Cthulhu. Basically turns a Muzen Cab into Cthulhu. He even has, his jokes are throwbacks to the language. He has a taunt that says, "You will worship me." Pretty fun. Also turns his hives into these like purple sack things. I don't even know what they are, like tentacles. And his bees become more like purplish plasma, like substance. I don't even know. It's a pretty fun skin, very clever. It's really cool. All right, and that is a Muzen Cab.